The sound of car horns filled the air. Street sellers shouted as they carried their goods on their heads. The smell of roasted corn and puff-puff floated around the crowded road in Lagos. Sonia walked fast, holding her small nylon bag tight to her chest. It contained all she owned in this world. She didn't have parents. She didn't have a home. All she had was herself and a broken promise. "Life is not fair," Sonia whispered as she crossed the busy street. Sonia was only 19 years. She lost her parents when she was just a little girl. Rose, her best friend, often told her to keep hoping. But hope was not easy when you are hungry almost every day. That morning, she received the worst news of her life. Her uncle, who raised her after her parents died, had decided she must marry a poor man named Peter. Sonia was shocked. "Uncle Amos, I don't love him," she cried when she heard it. "Love doesn't put food on the table," Uncle Amos shouted. "He is a good man. He works as a mechanic. At least he can feed you." But Sonia didn't want to marry Peter. She had dreams. She wanted to work hard, go to school, and build her own life. But now, everything was falling apart. Later that day, Rose rushed to meet her behind Mama Vivian's small shop. "Sonia, are you okay?" Rose asked her friend, holding her hands. Sonia's eyes were red. "They want to marry me off to Peter," she said weakly. "What? Peter the poor mechanic?" Rose gasps. "But you don't love him." Sonia nodded slowly. "I have no choice." Just then, Cynthia, a girl who often mocked Sonia, passed by and laughed loudly. "So the orphan girl is finally getting married. At least someone wants you." Rose turned angrily. "Cynthia, leave her alone." But Cynthia only laughed harder and walked away, swinging her bag. Sonia's heart burned with pain. She didn't want to be a burden. Uncle Amos made it clear. If she refused, she would have to leave the house. She had nowhere else to go. The marriage was arranged quickly. Sonia didn't even have a fine dress. She wore a simple white gown someone donated from the church. People whispered and gossiped as she stood beside Peter. Peter looked quiet. His brown shirt was old but neat. He was not a bad person. He even smiled at her gently. But Sonia didn't know him well, and she was scared of the future. "I, Sonia, take you, Peter." Her voice broke as she repeated the words. After the small wedding at the church, they took a danfo bus back to the small room Peter rented at the edge of Lagos. Sonia's heart was heavy. She sat on the old bed and stared at the wall. "I'm sorry this is happening like this," Peter said softly. Sonia didn't reply. She didn't know how to feel. That night, as the rain started to fall on the zinc roof, Sonia whispered to herself, "I don't know what tomorrow will bring, but I won't give up." What Sonia didn't know was that Peter was hiding a big secret, a secret that would change her life forever. The morning after the wedding, Sonia woke up to the sound of loud street voices outside the small room she now shared with Peter. The sun was shining through the cracked window, and the smell of akara from the woman downstairs filled the air. Sonia sat up slowly. Her head was heavy. Everything felt unreal. Just yesterday, she was crying at Uncle Amos' house. Today, she was married to a man she barely knew. Peter was already dressed. He wore his simple brown shirt and dark trousers. "Good morning," he said with a small smile. Sonia didn't smile back. She just nodded. "I bought some bread and tea downstairs," he added gently. "Eat before it gets cold." She didn't expect that kindness. She slowly stood up, brushed her hair, and sat on the small wooden chair to eat. As she ate quietly, Peter stood near the door, watching the busy street. There was something calm about him, something Sonia couldn't explain. Later that day, Peter went to his workshop. Sonia stayed alone in the room, cleaning and arranging what little they had. But then, something strange happened. As she was sweeping under the bed, she found a small black box. She hesitated before picking it up. It looked expensive, too expensive for someone like Peter. She slowly opened it. Inside was a gold wristwatch and a silver keycard with no name on it. "What is this?" she whispered. She had never seen anything like it before. Sonia hid the box quickly when she heard footsteps outside. Peter came in later, looking tired. His clothes were dirty with grease. "How was your day?" he asked softly. Sonia swallowed hard. She wanted to ask about the box, but didn't know how. Instead, she said, "Fine, I cleaned the room." Peter nodded and gave her a small nylon bag with some food. "I bought rice and stew," he said. She was surprised again. Poor men rarely spent extra money, but Peter didn't seem to worry. That night, Sonia sat by the window, staring at the stars. Rose had called her earlier, crying. "Sonia, are you okay?" Rose asked on the phone. "I'm fine," Sonia lied. "If you need me, just come," Rose whispered. Sonia missed her old life, even if it was hard. She felt trapped, but also confused. Suddenly, she noticed Peter quietly leaving the room around midnight. He didn't know she was awake. She peeked through the curtain. Peter walked down the street, entered a black car parked at the corner, and drove away. "Peter? But he doesn't own a car," she whispered in shock. Sonia couldn't sleep after that. Her heart raced. Who was Peter, really? The next morning, she pretended everything was normal. Peter came back with his usual soft smile and handed her a small purse. Inside was money. Real money. "I thought you might need something for yourself," he said. Sonia was speechless. She stared at him. How could a poor mechanic give her that kind of money? "Peter, where did you get this from?" she asked carefully. He looked at her for a moment. His smile faded. "Sonia," he said softly, "there are some things about me you don't know yet, but soon you will understand everything." Her heart skipped a beat. She wanted to ask more, but he walked out of the room before she could speak. Later that week, Rose visited. She hugged her tightly. "You look different," she said, studying her face. "And your room looks better than I imagined." Sonia told her about the money and the mysterious car. Rose's eyes widened. "Are you sure Peter is poor?" she whispered. "What if he's into something dangerous?" That thought scared Sonia. She didn't know what to believe anymore. But deep down, something told her Peter was hiding a secret. Not something evil, but something big. "I will find out," she whispered to herself that night. "I will find out who he really is."
The night breeze in Lagos was cool and soft. Sonia sat quietly by the small window of the room, hugging her knees. Her heart was full of questions she couldn't answer. Peter had been disappearing every night, always returning before dawn. During the day, he still dressed like a simple mechanic. But at night, Sonia saw things that didn't make sense. The money, the black car, the gold wristwatch, the key card. "Who is my husband really?" she whispered into the darkness. The next morning, Peter was already gone. He left a note on the table. "I'll be back late. There's food money on the chair. Take care of yourself. Peter." Sonia stared at the note for a long time. His handwriting was clean and neat, not what she expected from a man who worked with oil and car parts. She decided to go out. She wrapped her scarf and walked to the junction where Mama Vivian sold akara and bread. "Ah, Sonia," Mama Vivian greeted warmly. "How marriage life?" Sonia forced a smile. "We're fine, Ma." As Sonia was buying bread, she noticed a black SUV parked a short distance away. It was the same car she saw Peter enter at midnight. A man in a black suit stood beside it, looking around. He didn't look like someone from our neighborhood. His clothes were too neat, his shoes too shiny. Their eyes met. The man quickly looked away, but Sonia's heart skipped. Something was happening, something big. Later that day, Rose came to visit again. She carried a small nylon bag with oranges. "Sonia, you look worried," Rose said as they sat together. "Rose, something is not right," Sonia whispered. Sonia told her about the man in the suit. Rose opened her mouth wide. "This is serious. Are you sure Peter is not working with dangerous people?" Sonia shook her head slowly. She didn't feel danger. She felt mystery. That night, Sonia pretended to sleep. Around 11:45 p.m., she heard the door creak open. Peter quietly stepped out again. Sonia waited a few seconds, then slipped on her slippers and followed from a distance. The street was quiet except for the sound of distant music and night raiders packing up. Sonia hid behind a tree near the junction. She saw Peter walk up to the same black SUV. This time, the man in the suit opened the back door for him. Peter entered the car. The driver drove off. "Oh my God," Sonia whispered. She quickly waved down a passing Okada rider. "Bros, abeg, follow that black jeep," she said, her voice shaking. The Okada man followed slowly. After a few minutes, they arrived in front of a tall building with bright lights in the city center. Sonia's eyes widened. "It didn't look like a mechanic workshop to us." Peter stepped out of the car. Two men in suits bowed slightly as he walked past. "Good evening, sir," they said politely. "Sir?" Sonia almost lost her balance. Peter entered the building. Sonia stared at the shining glass doors. It was clear. Peter was someone very important. The next day, Peter acted like nothing had happened. "How was your night?" he asked gently. "Fine," Sonia lied. Her mind was spinning. When he left for work, Sonia decided to search the room. She pulled out the black box again. This time, she noticed small writing inside the lid. "Executive access, gold member." She had no idea what it meant, but it didn't sound poor. That evening, as she sat outside, Cynthia walked up with her usual mocking smile. "So, Mrs. Mechanic, how's your romantic life in poverty?" she teased. Sonia said nothing. She was too lost in thought. But suddenly, Cynthia's eyes shifted to the road. "Ah, look at that fine car." The black SUV stopped in front of the compound. A man in a suit came out, walked to Sonia, and said politely, "Madam, Oga Peter sent me to bring you." The entire street went silent. People stared. Even Cynthia's mouth hung open. "Me?" Sonia asked, shocked. "Yes, madam. Oga is waiting for you." Her heart pounded as she entered the car. This was the moment she knew Peter was not who everyone thought he was.
The black SUV moved smoothly through the busy night roads of Lagos. Sonia sat in the back seat, her hands shaking slightly on her lap. The cool air from the car's AC touched her face. She had never been in such a fine car before. Her mind was full of questions. Why would a mechanic send a big car to pick me? Who is Peter really? The driver and the man in the suit didn't speak a word. They drove straight into the high-class part of the city, where the buildings were tall, the lights were bright, and the air smelled different, cleaner. Sonia felt like she was in another world. Finally, the car stopped in front of a huge glass building with golden lights at the entrance. The sign at the top said, "Gold Tower Group." The man in the suit opened the door for her. "Madame, this way, please," he said respectfully. Sonia stepped out slowly, looking around like a lost child. Expensive cars were parked everywhere. Well-dressed people walked in and out. Everyone seemed important. Inside the building, the floor shone like glass. The air was cool, and soft music played from hidden speakers. Sonia walked behind the man as he led her to a private elevator. She couldn't believe her eyes. The elevator went straight to the top floor. When the doors opened, Sonia gasped. She saw Peter standing at the center of a wide, beautiful office with glass walls. He was no longer wearing his dirty mechanic shirt. He wore a clean, sharp black suit, a shiny watch on his wrist, and black shoes that looked more expensive than everything she owned. For a moment, Sonia forgot how to breathe. "Peter," she whispered. He smiled gently. "Welcome, Sonia." His voice was calm, confident, different. "What is this place?" she asked in shock. Peter walked closer to her. "This is my company, Gold Tower Group. I am the CEO." Sonia stepped back, her eyes wide. "You, CEO? But I thought you're just a mechanic." He nodded slowly. "Yes, I work at the mechanic workshop. But it's not because I'm poor." He turned to the glass wall, looking down at the city lights. "My parents were very rich. When they died, they left me this company, but I grew up spoiled. I didn't know what real life felt like. So I made a choice to live like an ordinary man for a while. I wanted to know how people truly are, not because of money, but because of me." Sonia couldn't speak. Her heart was beating fast. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I wanted a wife who would love me for who I am, not for my money. When I saw you, Sonia, I saw kindness in your eyes. I saw a woman who didn't pretend. That's why I agreed to marry you." Tears filled her eyes. She thought she was marrying a poor mechanic, but she was standing beside a billionaire. Peter led her to a private sitting area. A lady in uniform served them juice in glass cups. Sonia held her cup carefully, as if it would break. "All this time, I judged my life wrongly," she whispered. Peter held her hand. "I know it was hard for you. I saw the pain in your eyes the day we got married. But I needed time to tell you the truth. I wanted to be sure you're the one." "And am I?" Sonia asked softly. Peter smiled warmly. "Yes, you are." After the meeting, Peter took her to a beautiful mansion on Banana Island. Sonia's mouth fell open when she saw the shining building, the fountain in front, and the guards who greeted Peter with respect. "Welcome home, madam," they said to her. Her heart almost stopped. "Peter, this is our house?" she asked. "Yes," he replied simply. "Everything I own is also yours now." Sonia couldn't hold back the tears. All her life she had been called poor orphan girl. Now she was standing in a house she never dreamed she could enter. But what touched her most wasn't the wealth. It was the fact that Peter had chosen to live simply, not because he had to, but because he wanted to find real love. Later that night, as they sat in the quiet living room, Peter looked at her seriously. "Sonia, now you know the truth. But with this life comes responsibility. People will try to get close to us for money. We must protect what we have together. I need to know, can you stand with me?" Sonia held his hand tightly. Her eyes shone. "I will stand by you, she said. Peter smiled warmly. Then our real life begins now. The morning sun shone softly through the tall glass windows of the mansion in Lagos. Sonia woke up in a warm bed, wrapped in soft white sheets. Just a few weeks ago, she was struggling to sleep on a thin foam mattress in a crowded house. Now, she was in a home that looked like a dream. She slowly sat up and looked around. Beautiful flowers decorated the room. On the table was a tray with breakfast and a note in Peter's handwriting. "Good morning, my love. I had an early meeting. Eat well. I'll be back soon. Peter." Her heart melted. For the first time in her life, Sonia felt safe and truly loved. Later that day, Peter took Sonia to his company again. He introduced her to everyone as his wife. Workers greeted her with respect. "Good morning, Ma," they said with smiles. She couldn't believe this was happening to her. People who once ignored her now treated her like a queen. But she didn't let it change her heart. She remained humble, greeting everyone kindly. That made Peter even more proud of her. When Sonia returned to her old street with Peter's car, the whole neighborhood gathered, whispering and pointing. Mama Vivian almost dropped her frying pan. "Is that Sonia?" she gasped. "Sonia in a big car?" Rose ran out of her shop screaming with joy. "Sonia!" she shouted, hugging her tightly. "I can't believe this. Look at you." Tears filled both of their eyes. Rose had always stood by her when she was nobody. Then Cynthia appeared. She looked at Sonia from head to toe, her mouth slightly open. The same girl who once mocked Sonia now couldn't find her words. "Cynthia," Sonia said softly, "life can change at any time. That's why we should never look down on anyone." Cynthia's face burned with shame. She forced a weak smile. Uncle Amos also came out slowly, shocked to see the convoy of cars. He didn't know Peter's secret. "Sonia, my daughter, I didn't know Peter was—" "Uncle," Sonia interrupted gently, "I forgive you. But next time, don't force any girl to marry for money. You almost gave away my life without knowing my future." Uncle almost bowed his head in silence. Peter joined them a few minutes later. He looked handsome in his suit, holding Sonia's hand with pride. "Ladies and gentlemen," Peter said with a smile, "this woman standing beside me is not just my wife. She is my strength. She married me when everyone thought I was poor, and for that, she will forever be my queen." The whole street clapped. Rose was crying tears of joy. Even Mama Vivian shouted, "God is good, oh." Cynthia just stood quietly, realizing how wrong she had been. Over the next few months, Sonia began learning how to manage part of the company. Peter enrolled her in business classes, and she surprised everyone with her sharp mind. She started a foundation to help poor orphan girls like her. Girls who had dreams but no one to help them. "I want every girl to know your beginning does not define your end," Sonia said at the opening of the foundation. Peter watched her speak with pride in his eyes. She was no longer the scared orphan girl who whispered to herself at night. She was now a strong, confident woman. One evening, as they sat together on the balcony of their mansion, Peter held Sonia's hand and looked into her eyes. The city lights sparkled below them. "Sonia," he said softly, "thank you for loving me when you thought I had nothing." "Peter," she replied with a smile, "I didn't love your money. I loved your heart, and I'd still love you even if all this disappeared." He kissed her forehead gently. "You will never have to live in pain again," Peter whispered. "From now on, we face life together." Sonia leaned her head on his shoulder. She thought about her past, the night she cried alone, the insults, the hunger, the shame.
And then she thought about this moment: love, peace, and a bright future. She smiled. God turned my pain into power, she whispered. Months later, Sonia became the face of a national women's empowerment project. She inspired many young girls who came from nothing, just like her. Rose managed one of the branches of her foundation. Uncle Lomos became a changed man. Cynthia learned her lesson. And Peter? He remained by her side. Not just a billionaire, but a man who had found true love in the most unexpected place. They built their empire together, not just with money, but with trust, loyalty, and love. Moral lesson: never look down on anyone because of their situation. True love isn't built on money, but on trust and character. Your beginning doesn't determine your ending.
Thank you for listening to another tale from Limitless Tale with Peace, where African folktales live on. If this story touched you, like, share, and tell me your thoughts in the comments. Until the next tale, stay curious.